All right, everybody, get ready. Because today we are going deep into the life of a woman who seems like she's lived it all out there,
Yeah.
But Shaunie O'Neal, her story goes way deeper than you might think.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about her autobiography here.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, what we found is way more interesting than like any reality TV drama, for sure.
It's surprisingly down to earth.
Okay.
Like her story, like forget all the glitz and glam, you think Shaunie O'Neal, you think like, NBA wife, all this stuff.
Totally, yeah.
But her upbringing was very relatable. Well, except for maybe the whole like, my parents have completely different religions.
Okay, yeah, that's not your average family dynamic.
No.
So we're talking her mom, devout Christian, her dad, dedicated member of the Nation of Islam.
Yeah.
Talk about a recipe for some
Right.
flashes, right?
Yeah, I mean, talk about different worldviews.
How did that even work?
Right, and so
I'm already hooked.
Shaunie talks about how, they really emphasized mutual respect, and her mom, went back to her Baptist roots, and her dad was, fully embraced his faith.
Yeah.
The 5 daily prayers, studying the Quran, like the whole 9 yards. But I think what's interesting is how much he encouraged his kids to think for themselves.
So even with his strong beliefs, he wasn't pushing that on his kids?
Not at all. And in fact, he would always encourage them to question things.
Oh, wow.
Like, don't just accept it. Like question.
Interesting.
And you can see that, I think, even in Shaunie's outlook on life, is that...
It makes you wonder how much those early conversations influenced her later on.
Totally.
Especially when she had to navigate some pretty, complex situations in her life.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But hold on, because I have to circle back for a second.
Yeah.
We're talking about Shaunie O'Neal, like Shaquille O'Neal's ex-wife, right?
Right.
So did growing up with a father who followed the Nation of Islam, did that, impact her life choices later on?
It's definitely a question worth considering.
Yes.
The Nation of Islam has a complex history.
Right.
And a unique perspective on family dynamics.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about Shaunie's personal experience here.
Of course.
This is her story and her individual understanding of faith and family.
Right. Yep.
This isn't about making generalizations.
Totally.
Right.
Okay, so we've got this, strong, independent thinker in the making, shaped by these two very different but equally devout parents.
Totally.
What about her mom? What kind of influence did she have?
So her mom sounds like the definition of a loving but strict parent.
Okay.
Like think classic anchor of the family, ran a tight ship at home, instilled a really strong work ethic in her kids.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly enough, Shaunie actually jokes about how because her mom did everything for them, she never actually learned basic domestic skills.
Oh, I know that struggle.
Right.
Sometimes a parent's love can really backfire.
It's such a balancing act.
Yeah.
Too much or too little, can really have some unintended consequences.
For sure.
And I think it speaks to some of those relatable parenting dilemmas that we all kind of face in one way or another.
Right.
And so...
It makes you wonder if Shaunie overcorrected when it came to her kids.
Right.
Especially given, her fame and fortune.
Right.
But before we get there, I gotta ask.
Yeah.
Shaunie growing up in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Was it all red carpets and...
Okay, so get ready for this.
Okay.
Picture this. Hollywood.
Okay.
But make it normal.
Okay, now you have to elaborate on that.
Right.
But I'm very intrigued.
We're talking a childhood with some modeling gigs.
Okay.
Even beauty pageants, but nothing over the top.
Okay.
And she even talks about how her dad put a stop to the modeling when things started to feel a little too, quote, adult for his comfort.
Protective dad to the core.
Yes.
See, I love that. It's refreshing to hear about this grounded upbringing.
Yeah.
Even in the heart of Hollywood.
Totally. And, this is where that relatable parenting struggle I mentioned earlier kind of comes full circle.
Okay.
Shaunie talks about making a conscious effort to raise her kids differently, especially when it came to, teaching them independence.
Which, let's be real, that's tough for any parent.
Right.
But then, throw in fame and fortune on top of that.
Right.
How do you even... Did she talk about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She's very open about the challenges of, raising kids with staff and help, always available.
Yeah.
And Shaunie knew that wasn't the real world,
Right.
And so she insisted her daughters learn, everyday life skills.
Okay.
Cooking, cleaning, laundry.
Holy.
You name it.
Wow, that's impressive.
She was like, They're gonna learn.
Yeah.
And get this.
Okay.
She even admits to overcompensating after her very public divorce
Oh, yeah.
from Shaq. She wanted to shield her kids from all that upheaval, and she realizes she ended up, maybe doing a little too much.
It's such a common parenting, trap, I think.
Right.
We want to protect our kids from pain.
Right.
But sometimes we end up, accidentally, disabling their resilience.
That's the word she uses.
Oh, wow.
Disabling resilience.
That's powerful.
It's such a powerful admission.
Yeah.
And it really speaks volumes about her own, journey of self-awareness as a mother.
Okay, so speaking of Shaq,
Yeah.
I know what everyone's thinking.
Okay.
Spill the tea on
Yeah.
the Shaq years, right?
The Shaq years.
Does she go there in the book?
She does touch on it.
Yep.
But it's not, it's not the tell-all expose that you might expect.
Right.
Her focus is more on taking responsibility for her part in the marriage ending.
That's refreshing to hear.
Right.
Especially because it's easy to place blame when it's that high profile.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But it sounds like there's a lot of self-reflection.
A lot of self-reflection. And, she even talks about reaching a point of forgiveness.
Okay, and before you even say it, I'm going to guess. This forgiveness isn't about him.
You got it.
It's about her finding peace.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
She's very clear about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't about, condoning anything or letting anyone off the hook.
Right.
It was about her own emotional well-being.
Wow.
About breaking free from the past.
Which honestly is so much easier said than done.
Oh, 100%.
How did she even, did she talk about how she came to that?
She does, and she actually links it back to her parents.
Okay.
Remember how we were talking about that? The kind of underlying tension in their marriage?
Right.
And her mom's struggle with forgiveness?
Yes, it was there.
It was there.
Even if it was unspoken.
Right. And it clearly, left a mark on Shaunie because she saw firsthand the toll that holding on to resentment can take on a person, on a relationship.
Yes, it was less about Shaq and more about not repeating the past.
Exactly.
Choosing a different path for herself.
Exactly. It's about breaking free from those unhealthy patterns, even if they're ingrained from childhood. It's like,
wow. Okay.
We see that.
So we've got faith.
Yeah.
We've got family.
Family.
We've got a high-profile marriage.
Yes.
A very public divorce.
Yes.
What else? There's got to be more to the story.
Oh, there's so much more.
Okay.
And this is where Shaunie's journey takes a turn.
Okay.
I bet you won't see coming. Remember how Shaunie was kind of like, oh yeah, Hollywood, whatever.
Like it was no big deal.
It's almost like she does the same thing with Basketball Wives.
Really?
Yeah. It's like she doesn't want to give it too much power,
That's interesting. Why do you think that is? I mean, it's such a huge part of her public persona.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to controlling her own narrative, right?
Okay.
Because for so long, she was defined by reality TV, being Shaq's ex-wife.
Right, yeah.
This book is Shaunie saying, hey, there's more to me than the headlines.
Yeah, I love that. Taking back her story.
On her own terms, exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest surprises.
Okay, hit me.
She's a pastor's wife now.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Pastor's wife.
Yeah.
That's a plot twist I was not expecting.
Right.
Wow, what led her down that path?
Right. And it's so unexpected, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
When you think about it.
Okay.
Because remember that foundation of faith that we talked about?
Right, yeah.
It's it was always there, just waiting to be fully embraced.
It's like everything she's gone through, all the ups and downs, led her to this point.
Yeah, and that's what makes diving into this book so powerful.
Totally.
Because her story reminds us that, life is messy. We make mistakes. There's always room for growth, for transformation.
It makes you think about those unexpected turns that life can take,
All the time, yeah.
It's not always a straight line.
Never. It's never a straight line.
From A to B.
Nope.
Right.
Exactly.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive into Shaunie's life.
Yeah.
And we explored, everything, from her unique upbringing to navigating, the complexities of fame and marriage and motherhood.
It's a lot.
But I want to hear from you, the listener. What is sticking with you after hearing her story?
I think for me, it's the power of forgiveness and not even just for the other person, but for yourself, right?
Right.
Shaunie's journey to forgiveness, especially with her parents' relationship as this kind of backdrop, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, how much are we shaped by the dynamics we see growing up?
That's a good question, yeah.
Yeah.
It's we talk about learned behavior.
Right.
But what about, learned patterns in relationships. It makes you really kind of reflect on your own life.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, Shaunie's story is a great reminder that we all have the power to choose our own path and like break free from those unhealthy cycles, you know?
Absolutely.
So as you go about your day, just think about those unspoken dynamics that you might have observed in your own life.
Yeah.
The ones that might be, kind of subtly influencing your approach to relationships today. And maybe Shaunie's story will inspire you to embrace forgiveness and, choose your own path and redefine what, family and fulfillment really mean for you.